our body has a mechanism where protein can then be metabolized, converted and then be utilized as glucose in the body, but that is a backup mechanism. So God created a backup mechanism, that because initially humans were wanderers, gatherers. So if you don't get food one day, then your stored up body fat will first start being utilized for energy, and then after that your stored protein can then be utilized as energy. But all this is a excessive stress on your body to convert it into glucose and then use. So where does the metabolism take place? In the chemistry lab of our body, that is the liver. So the liver has to work extra for this to be done. Next, what happens? The metabolic waste, who has to process and throw out of the body? That is our kidney. Kidney's main job is to filter out all the metabolic waste from the blood and throw out what is not necessary. So when we have too much protein in our diet, we usually see the kidney being affected because it has to process too much of the metabolic waste. Slowly and steadily the kidney overworks and then starts failing. So especially kidney patients have to limit their protein intake, be very careful about their protein intake. Even diabetic patients need to be careful because high diabetes directly affects the kidney also. So again, don't go by this popular fad of having too much protein in your diet. All you require is one fistful a day, and more than that it will reflect as having high uric acid levels in the blood. If you test, your uric acid will start going up. Later it proceeds to kidney damage and kidney failure. So please be careful. Don't try to overtake protein. Anything too much is not good for us. Okay. So since we were talking about the industrial food culture, and since he has joined us today, I trying to talk about chocolates when I see children in the audience. So let me just speak a little about the food industry completely ignoring the quality of the end product, the impact of the end product on the users, and only concentrating on doing best to market their product and sell their product irrespective of we think that they don't know the effect, what it will have on the health of the consumers, but you're wrong. You're being too innocent and naive if you think that they do not know the effect on our health. It is they're well aware of it, but people still go ahead with it because at the end of the day, it's the figures, the numbers, the profit which is the main focus. Health is all secondary. So when speaking about chocolates, we can say that in chocolates, the first step when you harvest the cocoa beans is that they need to be fermented. Where does this happen? Cocoa growth is mainly in the equatorial region, in Brazil, Ecuador, those kind of countries where the humidity is high and temperature is high. This is what is suitable for growing cocoa. Of course, now we are creating these conditions everywhere and we are able to grow cocoa, but initially in 20-30 years back, the main producer of cocoa was near the equatorial belt, the countries near the equator. So once the cocoa beans are harvested, they're similar to coffee beans. We've all seen coffee beans, they're very similar to that. The first step is fermenting the cocoa beans. So now what happens when anything is fermented? We know that there is a smell which comes out because of the process of fermentation. So because of this smell, lot of insects are attracted to the cocoa beans. So in the factories, in huge vats which are as huge as this room, cocoa beans are fermented, and because of the smell, lots of insects get attracted, including cockroaches and all other insects get attracted, and lot of them come and fall inside the vats in which cocoa beans are being fermented. So then what the manufacturers did, they started trying to take measures to prevent all these insects, like using lot of chemicals, like making the place clean. But still, you know that cockroaches have escaped even volcanic eruptions. There's been a volcanic eruption, the lava is flowing out, and you will see one organism which comes out of that, which is a cockroach. So these cockroaches can survive such years and years of lot of mass extinction also. It is apparently said that cockroaches have survived. So what are we humans going to do to prevent cockroaches? We are quite incapable of doing anything to 100% remove them or prevent them from coming to the vats in which cocoa beans are being fermented. So after all efforts, the producers came together and said, we are trying everything we can do. We are still not able to prevent all the cockroaches from falling into the vats. We are trying to remove as many as we can. Still some amount is being left behind. So please give us permission. To whom did they apply? They applied to the FDA. FDA is Food and Drug Administration. They are the standard. They set the standards for saying, okay, this product, this food product or this medicine is good and it can be sold. So you need an FDA approval. So the FDA, they approached and gave an application saying, after all our efforts, some amount is still being left behind. So give us permission to sell chocolate along with the cockroach and insect parts. So the FDA comes and inspects the whole thing and says, yes, these people are doing everything they can. So let us set a standard. So you know how much the standard is? It is 4%, which means in every 100 grams of chocolate which you eat, up to 4 grams is permitted to be cockroach and other insect parts. So how much is 4 grams? Cockroaches are very light, they don't weigh much. So it equals to 16 big cockroaches in a single 100-gram bar of chocolate. So imagine, so some people when I say this, say, how does it matter? It's so tasty. So how does it matter? We're eating it anyway.
If you eat cockroach, it literally has malnutrition.
Yes, so when you eat cockroach, the main problem is they have an effect on your lungs. A lot of the patients who come to us, children, we just stop them from having chocolate. Most of them start recovering from their asthmatic problems, wheezing problems. You don't even need to eat it. If you sit for an hour in a room where there are lots of cockroaches, you will start developing asthma or wheezing issues. On a similar lines speaking, the FDA also permits 750 million pus cells in every 1 liter of milk. So as I said, like the green, yes, exactly. So like green revolution promoting wheat, sugar and rice, in the name of the white revolution, we have all started consuming milk and milk products. It's so amazing actually. Milk is an unstable product. Natural milk, if you take more than 3 hours, if you keep it as such, after 4 hours, if you heat the milk, it's going to split. But the industry is working day and night to make sure that each and every house in the cities from the villages gets the supply of milk in packed packets. So they have an entire network running so well. They collect the milk, they bring it to the factories, they add chemicals to stabilize it, they pasteurize it, they pack it in plastic packets and distribute it. So it's around the clock they are working and they are making us drink this milk. Because of the production happening in tons and tons, the cows are being milked 365 days of a year non-stop. They tend to get more and more infections. Because of those infections, we have pus coming into the milk, the udder becoming swollen, the udder having infection, and 750 million cells is permitted in every liter of milk by the FDA. FDA is the standard in America. In India, it is even more is being permitted in the milk. So we are thinking we are drinking milk, but we are actually taking pus instead along with the milk. As of course, we all know urea is being mixed, this is being mixed, that is separate. But permittedly, we are having 750 million pus cells in every liter. So with these kind of numbers in front of on the board about profits and an equally big number being made by the food industry, if you still think that people are going to give you the right information about how to be healthy, if you think all the information available to you which you have been following to be healthy is correct, then you are sadly mistaken. So this is the foundation as to why we are all unhealthy, and this is the reason as to why, in spite of knowing what we are doing is not right for the human body, we are continuing to do the same thing, because who would want to lose out on making so much profit every single year? If everyone gets the right information, then this is going to start reducing. But now, what is the WHO saying? The World Health Organization says that all the statistics are only increasing and all these lifestyle diseases are going to double in the next 20 years. So imagine, already it is 40%, means after 20 years, out of 3 people, 2 people will be using medicine for hypertension. Out of 2 people, 1 person will be using medicine for diabetes. And of course, they are only rejoicing about it. But as a society, is it necessary to go down the same path? Is it necessary for us to be blind to everything which is happening and continue along the same path and give our children this kind of society where they are going to be sick all the time, where they are having to take medicines to do their daily activities? To shit, we need to take a medicine. To breathe air, people are depending on the puff machine, they have to take medicine. To sleep, sleep is supposed to be just relaxing, closing your eyes and get sleep. Even to sleep, people are having to take medicine. So all the basic functions of an organism, we are becoming dependent on drugs. So when we asked these questions, we had to go back to what mistakes mankind started making in the past few years, and when we realized these things, it was only evident that we had to share all this information with everyone, make them educated, let them know whether they change, they don't change, it's left to you, that's your choice. But at least we want the right information to reach everyone. I'm right now in a different topic, so I will speak about that tomorrow. Okay? Okay, so first thing we have to do is to find the right food, we need to define food. So what is the right food depends on our definition of food. So food means it has to give us energy, correct? So where do we get energy from? We get energy when we burn glucose. So our food needs to be a source of carbohydrate. But we don't want it to create a glucose imbalance. So we want our food, our carbohydrate, to be in such a way that it releases glucose slowly. So when does a food release glucose slowly and steadily? When it is having fiber in it. So if there is fiber, the glucose release will be slow into the blood. Another important thing is our food should have the capacity to detox the body, to clean the body on a day-to-day basis. It needs to have cleaning property as well. So of late what is happening? We are filling our body with all kinds of toxins, all kinds of junk, and once in a year, once in 2 years, we think we will have a complete body detox and we go to some naturopathic centers, etc., etc. But our food should be in such a way that it cleanses the body on a day-to-day basis such that toxins do not accumulate itself and do not cause different kinds of diseases. So quinoa is not actually a grain, but in lots of parts in abroad they are using quinoa as a healthy food option. So I would classify it along with ragi, jowar, bajra. In some parts they use corn. Okay. So some grains like these had still survived the industrialization of food, and here and there few people continue to use these grains now and then. So when we look into the fiber percent of these grains, they have 2 to 4% of fiber. So we already saw rice and wheat. Originally, if you take unpolished rice, that is red rice, brown rice, etc., it has 0.2% of fiber. But if we polish it the way we are eating, it has 0 fiber. Original desi variety of wheat had 1.2% of fiber, but now the atta which we use, maida form, hybrid wheat which has been modified, hybridized, all of that, if we consider, it also has 0% of fiber. So the maximum it had was 1.2. So because of this, the release of glucose we saw 30 minutes, all the carbohydrate was being converted to glucose and there was a sudden spike of glucose in the blood. Now in these grains, because of this 2 to 4% of fiber, the glucose release slows down. It takes up to 2 hours for this glucose to reach your blood. If you are eating these grains, then you will remain healthy. Okay? These grains are causing disease in some form or the other. We have termed them as negative grains because they bring disease. They cause glucose imbalance and they result in disease. So these we would call as neutral grains. Okay. So foxtail millet, also called as the Italian millet, in Telugu, korralu, in Hindi, kangni, okay. So how do you identify foxtail millet? It is yellow in color, okay. Most of the millets have their own individual colors. Foxtail millet is yellow in color. How much fiber does it have? It has 8% of fiber. So now, why is it called foxtail millet? Because when the crop is grown, it has a very beautiful kanku, we call in Telugu. It looks like the tail of a fox, bushy tail of a fox. That's why it's called foxtail millet. So now, what special cleaning properties does foxtail millet have? It helps to clean your nerves. So the first sphere of action is the nerves. So for all complaints related to the nerves, foxtail millet is very good. So what kind of conditions are we talking about? It can be kids who are having retardation. where the development of the brain has not taken place correctly in the formative years itself. Or it can be cerebral palsy, where development was fine but there has been damage to the nervous system during the process of birth. Or it can be children with autism. So physically everything is alright, but socially, behavior wise, there is some kind of abnormality, we call that autism. So in all these conditions where the brain functioning is not normal, foxtail millet is very good. It can be sciatica or cervical spondylosis problem, where there is pressure on the nerves either in the neck region or in the lower back region. So you get pain all along the course of the nerve. We call it sciatica or cervical problem. Cervical region, if there is problem, pain will come to the hand. If it's sciatica, complete leg, there will be pulling pain. So if the nerve is being compressed, then foxtail millet is good for you. It can be old age problems like Parkinson's, like memory issues or Alzheimer's. So all these kinds of nerve related issues. It can be simple tremors. So wherever the nerves are getting affected, the foxtail millet is a very good food for cleaning up the nerves, regenerating the nerves. It's good for all joint related complaints. So it might be arthritis, which can be osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, swelling of the joints, infection in the joints, all joint related complaints also foxtail millet is good. And also for the lungs, cleaning up of the lungs, especially now post corona, lot of people recovered from corona fever wise very quickly, but the lung capacity has reduced drastically. Climbing few steps also they feel problem in breathing and other kinds of issues. So any kind of infection for the lungs, any kind of lung weakness, foxtail millet is very good. Okay, so let's just revise. 8% of fiber, Italian millet, Korralu or Kangni, Telugu and Hindi. You asked for Kannada also. Kannada it is called Navane. Okay, it is the foxtail millet name comes from the type of when you grow foxtail millet, the way pattern of the seeds being formed. Good for cleaning the nerves, joints and lungs. Okay.